Again, about the Grandma Weir's trunk, how it all, they started, where were they living at before they went to
They was
California?
in Missouri.
Missouri.
They were living in Missouri. Her and Tommy Weir was living in Missouri.
Okay.
After Granddad Olmsted died, then, and she gave Grandma, when Granddad Olmsted and her was back there, they had Grandma and one boy, Uncle Will, Grandma's brother Will.
Mm-hmm.
They were Olmsteds. Well, Hiram Olmsted was their dad. When he died, I don't know, I can't tell you what was wrong, but he died as just a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And then she married this Tommy Weir. And they decided to go to California in '49 in the gold rush. Well, he worked worked a claim there in California till gold kind of faded out. And then he went to work at the smelter where they was melting this gold down into bars for the government.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he worked. And then Grandma had come to Utah with the shoemakers, the people that that Grandma had give Grandma to, these shoemakers.
Now she gave the girl away, but they kept the boy?
Yeah, she kept the boy.
Okay.
She said that girls wasn't worth raising.
Mm.
Why she gave Grandma away.
Mm.
And so shoemakers brought her and come to Utah, come in Salt Lake Valley with the first pioneers in '47. And so years after she'd grown up and got married to Uncle Ari, he'd get killed by the Indians, and left her a widow with 3 children, 2 children, and then one was born afterwards. Will was born afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
Wilmer. And then she married Granddad, Uncle Ari's brother. Well, years later, it went on till Dad was 14 years old. Grandma Weir had wrote to Grandma in Smithfield, and said that they were really destitute. And Tommy was sick, and they had no place they could take care of themselves, and could they have a home if they come to Utah? So they wrote back and told her yes. Dad says, I can well remember the day they come.
Mm.
He said, we was thrashing. We had the thrasher there. Of course, it was a horse fire.
Mm-hmm.
They was thrashing there the day that they come. And they come with an old skate team of horses on a white top buggy. You can imagine now the trip from California there with a team of buggy.
Yeah. Long time.
And then I've heard Dad tell that this trunk, from the time they come there, this trunk was kind of a mystery. It had to be moved. It took 2 men to move it. It was so heavy. And of course, everybody was curious. The trunk was always kept locked. And everybody wondered what made that trunk so heavy. Well, it went on and curiosity built, you know. And so he said he remembers one day, one Sunday, Grandma had a dinner kind of a family dinner after church, and she invited Almy Hilliard and Aunt Cindy from across the road to dinner, and Aunt Mary Hilliard and her man. He was another Hilliard. He was a brother to Almy. They came out, and so he said after dinner Grandma sat there. Now this, I'm getting ahead of my story. They come there in October when Tommy was real sick, and he lived till in January he died. And then Grandma just stayed there and had a home with Granddad and Grandmother.
Mhm.
Well, it said that that day after dinner, this one little girl of Aunt Mary Hilliard's sidled up to Grandma Weir, and she said, Grandma kind of picked her up and put her on her lap. Just little kids like Liz, I guess. And this little kid says, Grandma, what makes your trunk so heavy? She said, metal bars, Arnie, metal bars. Well, then everybody said, it's gotta be gold.
Mhm.
Because Tommy had worked at the smelter, and she had told different times about the workers there kept stealing the metal bars that they said they would run off in bars.
Yeah.
And so long, so thick, and so wide. And, well, the workers had been slipping them out when they get off shift. Well, then everybody said, that's gotta be gold bars. And so when they got ready to move to Idaho, Dad said it was just all him and Uncle Pierce could do to lift that up in the back of a wagon. Of course, they won't high wheel wagons this high, the back of them.
Mhm.
And when they got up here, it was the same when they unloaded and moved into the house. And that was in '6.
And so she and the trunk came on the train that night they
Oh,
came
yes,
up
they
there? Oh,
came.
okay.
They came together.
Yeah.
They all come to get to Idaho. Well, that was in 1906 when they come here. Well, she had a room in Grandma and Grandpa's house. Well, she lived there until Granddad died in March of '13. Well, after he died, Grandma, Dad and Mother had built that old log house back where Gardner's house is. And it was part of Granddad Hall's old log house. After he built the brick house, he let them have the logs out of the other. Dad bought the logs. They tore it down, part of the old Hall house, and took it up there and built it back on that 20. Well, after Granddad died, Grandma coaxed the folks to move over in part of her house and kind of look out for them because she was getting old, and so Grandma Weir was real old. So they went over there, and Dad said when we moved Grandmother's stuff out of the one bedroom into Mother's bedroom, that trunk was still as heavy. He said, me and Mother, we couldn't pick it up to us. He said, we slid it one room to the other. Well, then Grandma lived, that was in 13. Grandma lived till in September of 15 when she died, Grandma Weir. Well, after she died, the folks decided they'd move back home. So they was rearranging Grandmother's house for her before they left. And when they went to move that trunk, Dad said, we just about fell over. Said it was plumb empty. It was just the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, during the summer of 15, before Grandma died, that's when she'd make her daily walks. After lunch, after the noonday meal, she'd go and lay down on her bed for a nap. And he said about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, late afternoon, you'd see Grandma come out, and she always had something, her hands on her apron, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd come out, and sometimes he said she'd walk down past the old well, or she'd walk down along the slough for a little ways. The slough went right north from yards. And then she'd go down to the west where this was all for haul, this ground to haul was all heavy timber and they used it for nothing but pasture. She'd go down and crawl under the fence and pick up some dry sticks and put in her apron and come back to the house to start a fire for the evening meal. She done that during the summer before she got real bad towards September and was bedfast for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But he says that's what unloaded the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And they figured it either went in the well or it went in the sewer. But nobody knows for sure that it was gold.
Yeah. But during that time, there was something, Nathan was involved too, though.
She'd take Nathan with her. Nathan, that was in 15. Nathan was born in October of 9. So Nathan was
6 years old.
coming on 6 years old.
Mm.
And she, after she got bedfast, they said she kind of got delirious and kind of out of her mind a little bit. And sometimes she'd say, well, Nathan just left to go to Chicago. She says, he took a trainload of cattle. To Chicago. She says, someday Nathan will be a rich man. So they kind of laid it on that she had an idea that Nathan would remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, that's funny, I don't remember going with her on them walks. He says, I don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand it either. As bright a guy as Nathan always was, that he couldn't remember when he was almost 6 years old. I can remember when I was just past 3, as well as if it had been today.
Mm-hmm.
See, Dad bought the Madison place in the spring of 24 from Ren Madison. And I can well remember that. I can remember going there before Ren and Edith moved away. And I can remember going to the house with her and she fixed me bread and jam. And I can remember after they moved away, it was an old log house with a dirt roof, and there'd been so many. Now the Cunninghams had lived there, and the kids had got scarlet fever, and 2 of the boys died with scarlet fever. Dad was scared to death of that house.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, after he bought the place, he said, I'm going to burn it. And I can remember.
Remember the house burning?
I can remember.
And where would that have been?
Right where Nathan's old log house is,
Oh.
it was right there.
Huh.
It was I don't remember how many rooms, but I can remember what it looked like. But it was built north and south with a dirt roof on it.
Huh.
And 2 of the Cunningham boys died there with little boys with
Mm-hmm.
scarlet fever.
Hmm.
And I can remember that. And Dad burned that, and then he scraped all that dirt away. There was a big slough out in east of the house there. He scraped that out there with the horses, and he wouldn't let us kids around there while he was cleaning that up.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. And so the trunk, you know where the trunk's been and where it is now.
Yeah. Huh.
There's been so many different stories. Doc claims he got the trunk and he tore it all to pieces, thought maybe there was a map in it.